Rawat. This is Shata Oyanafa Oyohoel of the heritage of the West Alabama Choctaws and the East Mississippi Chickasaws. I will begin this video, which is actually the challenge number 7 video for the white female support system. And I will begin with the At-sik-hata Nation of Yamassee-Moors response to the United Nations Questionnaire from the UN Independent Expert on the promotion of a democratic and equitable international order on the impact of economic and financial policies, especially those of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, on a democratic and equitable international order. Okay. Our assessment of the IMF and the World Bank collaboration with the United Nations is nothing short of genocide, infanticide, apartheid, crimes against humanity, war crimes, etc., for operating contrary to the United Nations Charter and international law. The actions of the IMF and World Bank, as well as the United Nations, is apparent and obvious as being the source of the very problem they claim to seem to solve. The IMF and the World Bank, as well as the United Nations, who front for the Rothschilds, are conspirators, collaborators, colanders, and accessories to genocide, infanticide, rape, forced assimilation, fratricide, apartheid, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and all other international law, treaties, and conventions that they signed in support of. The IMF and the World Bank, as well as the United Nations, who front for the Rothschilds, are guilty of violating all the laws, treaties, and conventions of the United Nations and international law as proven by the following evidence. Quote, "We economic hitmen have really been the ones responsible for this first truly global empire, and we work many ways. But perhaps the most common is that we will identify a country that has resources that our corporations covet, like oil. And then arrange a huge loan for the country from the World Bank or one of its sister organizations. But the money never actually goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our big corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, industrial plants, ports, things which benefit a few rich people in the country. However, in addition to our corporations, but really don't help the majority of the people at all. However, those people in the whole country is left holding huge debt. It's such a big debt that they can't repay it, and that's from the plan. If they can't repay it, and so at some point the economic hitman go back to them and say, listen, you owe us a lot of money. Can't pay back your debt, so sell us your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Allow us to build a military base in your country or send troops in support of ours to some other place in the country like Iraq. Or vote with us on the next UN vote to have their electric companies privatized and their water and sewage system privatized that's sold to U.S. corporations or other multinational corporations. Does that sound familiar? So that's it. It's a whole mushrooming thing, and it's so typical of the IMF and the World Bank work. They just put a country in debt, and it's such a huge, big debt, they can't pay it. And then you reoffer to refinance that debt and pay even more interest. And you demand this quid pro quo, which you call a conditionality or good governance, which means basically they got to sell off their resources, including many of their social services, their utility companies, their school systems, sometimes their penal systems, their insurance systems to foreign corporations. So it's a double, triple, quadruple whammy. John Perkins, former chief economist for Chas T. Main Incorporated, author, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Wow, that was a lot, but we see this. This is nothing familiar. We see right now the Amazon is burning, and this is of course not by accident. They want the indigenous people off the land, and this is what they do to get whatever it is that they want. I just read an article not too long ago how Sierra Leone actually stood up and canceled China building the airport over there because we are the most resourceful. We have the most resources in the world, and these people will try to give you something to get everything back. So this is a trick that we have seen throughout the history of colonization. So this is information, and this is the At-sik-hata Nation of Yamassee-Moors response to the UN. So take this with you, understand it, and let's learn how we can not fall for these tricks in the future. Abyud Gadur, white power.